Village churches welcome walkers to pop in and enjoy a thoughtful break. This church probably sits upon an ancient pagan site. How do we know? It's dedicated to Saint Michael, and Michael, the archangel who fought the devil, still guards the door. Inside, you get a sense that this church has comforted this community in good times and bad. Pre-Christian symbols decorate the columns, perhaps left over from those pagan days. And the list of rectors goes way back, without a break, to the year 1269. This church was built with wool money. In fact, they say generations of sheepdog leashes actually wore these grooves. I guess a shepherd took his dog everywhere, even to church. For nearly 1,000 years, pilgrims have set their sights on this, the Durham Cathedral, standing like a mighty fortress. Built around the year 1100 to house the much venerated bones of the great missionary monk St. Cuthbert, it offers perhaps England's best and purest look at Norman architecture. The architecture is unusually harmonious because the church was completed in just 40 years and survives essentially unaltered. Round arches and zigzag decorations are textbook Norman style. Stroll down the nave to the center. Gaze up at one of the highest bell towers in Europe. When the Normans conquered the Saxons here in England back in the 11th century, they brought with them more than just their architecture. They brought a whole new order. And this mighty church, way up here in the north, was more than a place of worship and a home for St. Cuthbert's bones. It was an unambiguous political statement, both to the conquered Saxons and to the Scots further north. The Normans were here to stay. Grand medieval churches and the art that fills them are a reminder that monks like Cuthbert were the intellectual candles who helped keep scholarship flickering through the Dark Ages. Later, that knowledge strengthened the church and made wonders like the Durham Cathedral possible. England's first completely Gothic church dates from about 1200. The west portal shows off what's said to be the greatest collection of medieval statuary anywhere in Europe. About 300 13th century carvings. This entire ensemble was once painted in vivid color. It must have been a spectacular welcome, a heavenly host proclaiming, "Welcome to worship." Stepping inside, you're struck by the unique and ingenious scissors arch. This hourglass-shaped double arch was added in about 1340 to bolster the church's sagging tower. Nearly 700 years later, it's not only still working, it's beautiful. The chimes draw your attention to one of the oldest working clocks in the world, from 1392. The clock does its much-loved joust on the quarter hour. More medieval whimsy is carved into the capitals. This man has a toothache. Another pulls a thorn from his foot. And a farmer clobbers a thief so hard his hat falls off. And under glorious stained glass, you can enjoy the cathedral's evensong. The evensong is a Church of England choral service traditionally performed each evening and welcoming everyone. Taking a seat in the intimate central part of the church, we enjoy the opportunity to experience the church filled with timeless music. Because we're here in July, the cathedral's choir is on break and a visiting choir is performing. This one's from near Liverpool. The Minster is the pride of York. Britain's largest Gothic church brilliantly shows that the late Middle Ages were far from dark. The York Minster is filled with history and tradition. Its grand bells have called people to worship here for well over 1,000 years. Each day at noon, the huge bell nicknamed Great Peter is rung from the church tower. At 10 tons, the bell can actually ring its ringer. Inside, your first impression might be the spaciousness and brightness. The nave, from about 1300, is one of the widest Gothic naves in Europe. On festival Sundays, 4,000 worshippers pack the place. The central tower soars nearly 200 feet. The neck-saving mirror allows you to marvel at it comfortably. The church has more original medieval glass than the rest of England's churches combined. The east window is the size of a tennis court. The great west window has exceptional stone tracery. With its nickname, the Heart of York, it represents the Sacred Heart of Christ and reminds worshippers of his love for the world. The intricacy of the painted and stained glass held together by lead is exquisite. The fine details, far too tiny to see from the floor, are said to be for God's eyes only. The choir screen separates the nave from the choir. This ornate wall of carvings is lined with 4 centuries of English kings, from William the Conqueror to Henry VI. While most of the faces are generic kings with the same scraggly beards, Henry, during whose reign it was carved in 1461, is both genteel and engaged. York's Minster is considered England's #2 Anglican church, after Canterbury. The Anglican Church came into existence about 500 years ago, born out of Europe's long power struggle between popes and kings. Westminster Abbey. This most historic church in the English-speaking world is where kings and queens have been crowned and buried since 1066. While it was first built in the 11th century, much of what we see today is 14th century. When there's a royal wedding, the world looks on as, amid all this splendor, thousands of Britain's glitterati gather under these graceful Gothic arches. The centerpiece is the tomb of Edward the Confessor, who founded the Abbey, and surrounding Edward are the tombs of 29 other kings and queens. This is the tomb of Queen Elizabeth I. Her royal orb symbolizes she was queen of the entire globe. The Abbey is filled with the remains of people who put the great in Britain: saints, musicians, scientists, and soldiers. For lovers of English literature, strolling through Poets' Corner can be a pilgrimage in itself. King Henry VII's Lady Chapel, with its colorful windows and fanciful banners, has the festive air of a medieval pageant. The elaborate ceiling is a fine example of fan vaulting, a style that capped the Gothic age. At the far end, a wall of modern stained glass marks the Royal Air Force Chapel. It honors the fighter pilots of all nations who died defending Britain in 1944. With saints in stained glass, heroes in carved stone, and the remains of England's greatest citizens under the floorstones, Westminster Abbey is the national church and the religious heart of England.